Welcome to the Tea on Birth, and I'm so excited to be back. I am your host, Lavondria Foreman, and today we're just going to dive right in and talk about my birth story. But to do that, we are going to start with the week before, because if you've ever been pregnant, you know that there is a lot of things leading up to the actual birth. It doesn't just boom happen. Sometimes it does, but really for your first babies, it doesn't. If this is your first time or your 100th time listening to the Tea on Birth, just click subscribe, and I hope you like it and enjoy. But we're gonna dive right in, and I'm a little nervous because it is my own story, but as a birth worker, just gotta be willing to share. So the days leading up to my birth, I just want to say one, I was very pregnant. I did not look very pregnant. I felt very pregnant. I say that because in those days, I was 41, going on 42 weeks, and I didn't officially have Junior, my son, until 41 and 6 days, 5 days, basically, knocking on the door that if you don't come out now, we're going to have to change this whole plan that I have for you, which is like a beautiful home birth. That was going to be great and amazing. And it was. Happy ending. Let me just skip to it. It was a beautiful home birth. It was great. It was amazing, but it was a lot of hard work. So I just want to talk about all of that today, the steps leading up to it, because I think there's a lot of educational pieces into it that led up to my birth. So to start, around like the first intervention things that I was like, yes, let's do. Around 41 weeks, I went and saw my midwives. I was in midwifery care, which just means that I was a normal pregnant mom, and they were taking care of me out of the hospital with the same medical skills to protect my life, my baby's life. But anyway, so around 41 weeks, I went in. They asked if they could check me, and I said yes, I would be okay with that. And the check is a cervical exam that checks your cervix to see how dilated you are. But there's more to it. It's your dilation, it's your station, and it's your effacement. So just a quick brief rundown of what that is. Your dilation is how open you are, how wide you are, and then your station is how in the pelvis the baby is. So 0 is your pelvis, right in your pelvis, and then -1, -2 is high up. We call it floating, and then +1, +2 is head visible, crowning, +4 is baby is out. And then effacement, so your cervix starts off really thick and it has to thin out, is just how thin your cervix is. And the thinner it is, the stretchier it is, and the easier it is to dilate. But as birth worker, I have seen all of these numbers, or just one of these numbers, really tear women down. And because of that, I said, yes, I want you to check me, but I do not want to know any of this information, because all this information is not linear, I think is the term. It doesn't mean anything, basically. So you could be walking around at a 0. Yep, at a 0, that's a fly. And you can have your baby that night. You could be walking around 0, I mean with dilation, you could be walking around at a 5 and not have your baby for 2 more weeks. It is so, our bodies are so different, and how our bodies process birth is very different, and so you just don't know. I tell people it's just a number, but it can really mess with your headspace. and how you view birth and going into birth, or in general when you're in labor. It can really mess with your headspace. So I didn't want to know. And that same day, we got heart tones on baby, but they were not great heart tones. They weren't bad, but he was like sleepy, I think, basically. He likes to eat. You could tell that in the womb, but now I can really tell that now that he's out. So my midwife wanted to perform what is called a NST. I don't know the long word of the acronym, but it's basically the same thing that they do at a hospital. They hook you up to monitors and they monitor baby, but it's not continuous. So they just do it for like 15 minutes, and it just shows like, is this a reactive strip or non-reactive, or not accurate to read? We need to do another one. So an active strip is that it shows that your baby is responding well heartbeat wise to movement, and getting good circulation. And that's something that all care providers start to kind of be more watchful about when you're in your 41 going into 42 weeks, because that's when some not so great things can start happening to your placenta. So decided to do an NST, and I agreed. So it just looked like me sitting up with monitors for about like 10 to 15 minutes. And I get a button that I push every time baby moves, and that's helpful in giving them a clearer picture that, okay, the baby moved at this point and they had a spike in their heart, and then it goes back down. Like, and it has to, there are boxes, and you want it to be like 15, each box is like 15 seconds long. So you want the acceleration to last for a certain amount of time. You don't want it to be too short, because then you're like, okay, is this good variability for a heart if the placenta was accurately pumping blood to the heart? Science, basically. Science. Basically, is everything still viable with this pregnancy? Is everything still good? I ended up being there for a long time because baby, he was hungry. I think that was the end, like the whole thing, because I had, whenever I did drink some apple juice, which I'm going to tell y'all right now, ladies, I was not great about eating healthy. So I was like, this is not enough sugar to perk him up. I've been eating Cheetos. I've been eating, like, not a lot of sweets, but Cheetos and cheese, like all the things you're not supposed to eat. This is not enough sugar to make him like be happy for 15 minutes. It like perked him up for a second, and then he was like, man, where is the meat? Where is the protein? That is what I need. So we did that, and after that, I was fortunate like for them to be able to call the ultrasound lady to come in, and even she had a hard time. He does not, like, even to this day when I put him on video, he like is like, I'm not gonna do anything. So he did the same thing. He was not very active on the ultrasound, but she shook my belly a ton and finally got him to do like some movements that count as like, okay, we're good to wait. Like, you do not have to go into a hospital setting, basically. So I did that, and then the next day I got, probably like 2 days later, my birth brain was already foggy. I went in and they placed a Foley balloon. So if you don't know what that is, a Foley balloon catheter is basically the same as a catheter that goes in your urethra and catches pee, but instead it goes into your cervix, and they blow it up, like, not a lot, but enough to apply a pressure. And the cervix, so mine, there's two different types, but the type that I had was there was a balloon blown up on the inside, and then my cervix, and there was a balloon blown up on the outside. And at that appointment, I did find out on accident, which I was fine with, but that I was like 2 centimeters, like stretchy to 3. Like, my cervix was pretty thin, like a face. And I was surprised because that's not really common for first-time moms to be in that predicament. So I got the Foley balloon placed. I went home with the goal of doing a castor oil burrito. But that car ride, y'all, that car ride got me. I felt so much pressure. So the pressure goes from like 0 to 10 because you haven't felt any pressure. So it's just like stretching your cervix very fast, like dilating wise. Does it stay? Like, who knows, but that's the hope. And so a 30-minute car ride from the birth center to my house, I'm pretty sure like not even halfway in, I told my husband, like, I don't even have to ride in the truck anymore. Just let me out and I can walk because this pain is too much. And then he suggested I sit back in the chair in the like passenger seat, and I did, and that helped a lot. But then we decided to go to Walmart and get all the ingredients for the burrito, and I was just like, if this is what labor is, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can make it, y'all. I can't. But I did. But anyway, so I got home and called my doula. This is why you hire doulas. She gave me some great tools to do, like the mouth circuit, which I can have a whole episode on that. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this and then call you back. She's like, it sounds like you're tired. I'm like, yes, I am. Like, that was a lot. Like, the morning was a lot, just the Foley balloon and all that, and a cervical sweep. So that's when they go in, and if it is stretchy enough, or if you're at least 1 centimeter dilated, which is like one finger, they just sweep around your cervix and irritate it. And it can make you have some like cramp feelings and contractions. And so I got that done both times I got my cervix checked, because I'm like, if you're in there, stir things up, like, let's do this. And even prior to all of this week, like basically once I entered my 3rd trimester, I was having cramps like probably every day. So if I went walking or if I got on the ball, I would have cramps. But then as soon as I stopped doing any of those physical activities, they would go away. So I was just like, I'm done. I'm ready for the baby to be here. I was anxious. I was over it. And I was also trying to be productive, but not be too productive. Because I'm like, if I'm too productive, then that means that if I went into labor that night, I'd be exhausted. Like, I wouldn't be able to labor because I'm so tired from all the things I've been doing. So I was trying to find a balance and also just trying to trust my body. But like, oh, do you need help? But really, your body does not need help. It'll do what it's going to do when it's going to do it. That's how I feel after my one birth experience. But, one birth experience is a lot of experience, I feel like now. So I think I did try it. My husband made the castor oil burrito. So that looks like just getting like some tablespoons, depending on your weight. And you put the tablespoons of castor oil, a certain castor oil, but just like, I think it's cold pressed castor oil from like CVS. You put it in your eggs like you would water, or not water, like you would, I don't know, oil or whatever you put in your eggs, and you mix it up, and then you make scrambled eggs, and then you put whatever you want in it. And when you do that, you just cook them like normal, and then you eat them like burritos. Because I'm gluten-free, I did tacos. So I had to eat like 2 tacos, and I maybe ate like 1. And I remember my husband did like 3 eggs, and I was like, I'm not eating all of those. So I probably got like 0, like not a lot of castor oil. And my midwife, my doula like encouraged me, like, hey, like, you don't sound like today is the day, or like, you already sound like it's been rough. So you don't have to do all the things, like, it's okay, your baby will come when your baby will come, no matter what you do. And I'm like, yeah. And I was tired. That Foley balloon kicked my butt. So how the Foley balloon works is that you keep it in for 12 hours. So the key is that it dilates you to 3 or 4 centimeters, and then it falls out. But if it does not fall out, if you do the math, you know that means you're not that dilated. But if it doesn't fall out, then you just snip it out, and the water shoots out. By the way, it's very strong, like projectile, we learned. But yeah, you cut it, the tube, the water comes out, and the pressure is gone, and it stops, forcing you to dilate. Which, I was like, I'm gonna do all these things the last hour, and I might keep it an extra hour. No, I cut that sucker out as soon as possible because I was over the pressure. What the heck, babe? On. What's wrong with him? Nothing's wrong. Edit here. Edit here. So, we got a guest joining us, little baby. So if you hear little baby noises, my baby, doing what babies do. Back to the story. So we cut it out. I slept great that night. It was amazeballs, no more pressure. And then the next day, I really did the castor oil burrito, which really does not taste bad. But what castor oil does, the theory behind castor oil itself, like the drink burrito, straight up castor oil, however you do it to help labor, is that it goes through your digestive system and it cleans everything out. And in doing so, it makes your intestines cramp. But because your intestines and your uterus, like your reproductive parts, your digestive system and your reproductive parts are close to each other, it makes you have actual cramps too. That the goal is that it puts you into labor. So, I got up not early, but like around 10, and I finally did that, and it wasn't bad, and it definitely kicks in. And I will say my doula recommended that I use some sort of like petroleum jelly or oil or something to lubricate my booty hole. Can't put it any more direct than that. And if you do castor oil, I will say do that, because man, at first I was like, oh, this isn't bad, but you're like in and out of the bathroom a lot. I'm gonna be like super transparent. You're in and out of the bathroom a lot. It is not fun. And I did at some point start lubricating with like some petroleum jelly, because I was like, I am over this. This poop is starting to burn my booty hole. But then I did castor burrito twice, and this is the day I was 40. I think I was 41 and 5. And so I was like, I'm doing all this stuff, and then tomorrow I'm not doing anything, and he better decide to come, like that's on him. I'm gonna do all the things I can to have and make it have time to work. That's the thing. You don't want to like be like, I'm 41 and 6. I'm gonna start doing all these things. Like, they take time to work, and your body has to be ready, and your baby has to be ready. So I did a burrito at 10, and you usually try to do another one within like 4 hours. So I think I did another one at 2, but you don't want to do it too late, because if it's working but not going to put you into labor, you're just going to be up all night contracting and then be exhausted the next day, or be exhausted. Like, if you could plan when you go into labor, again, you want to not do it in the middle of the night. You want to get some sleep. So I did that, and then I think around 6 or 7, which I would love comments about this, because I feel like around that point the castor oil would have been done and like this is just my body doing what my body was gonna do, or if it's like, no girl, you went into labor because of that castor oil burrito. I love thoughts on that. But so around that time I started having contractions that were consistent, and then boom, I had a baby in an hour. No, that's not what happened. But I'm really trying to make these podcasts short because I learned as a mom that we don't have a lot of time to just sit and listen to things. And so I'm going to end it here. Dun dun dun. And on my next podcast episode, I will talk about early labor and the things I utilized that really helped me, and then how it turned into active labor. And depending on the time, they might be combined, but we will see. So just to summarize all the things I talked about in this episode, we went over how you feel, like how I was feeling at going on 42 weeks. All the emotions is a lot, and I'm a birth worker, and it was a lot. And then getting your cervix checked, how it's not super fun, but it really just feels like much pressure. If you have a midwife, it is way better than a doctor because they're gentle, they take their time, and you are in control the whole time. Like, the informed consent was so real. And then I got my cervix swept, which wasn't too awful, but I did have to breathe good. It helped me learn how to breathe, kind of like you have to do during contractions. And then we also covered the castor oil and the NST. So if you have any experience with those things, please in the comments tell me about it. If you're on the YouTube, because I'm gonna start posting my videos on YouTube. Or if you want to message me directly and tell me your story. I love birth stories. I love to hear it. And the goal is to also have guest speakers eventually. So I am Lavondria. I thank you guys for listening. Junior thanks you for listening. And that is the tea on birth. Stop here.